So we now have nearly 1,200 ChatGPT apps and 420 Claude connectors. As you can see, over the last 6 months, this ecosystem has grown rapidly. It's amazing to see it on a chart like this. And this is an updated view of our registry tracker. So we've been tracking this since day one. We have the oldest and most historical records. Many of you I know are already using this tracker to get daily insights. And as you can see, we've done a big upgrade, which I'm really, really excited to demo you today. So this is the best place you can get the most accurate and up-to-date data on what is happening in the ChatGPT App Store, what is happening in the Claude Connector Store. We have a lot to go through. So you've got an overall dashboard view, category sections, brand sections. You can get the specific connectors and apps in each ecosystem and a tool explorer as well. We even have a teaser of our category view with organic discovery. So this is an overarching view of one of the categories. And you can see here it's hotel search and booking, and you can see the visibility of each of these connectors and how they're appearing and things like their share of voice for organic prompts. So when someone prompts and they say something like, I want to book a hotel, who is appearing organically for those prompts in Claude. And we will go through that later. These are just some of the categories. We have many more as well once you sign in and get the full platform view, but we will go through all of that later. Now, what I'm going to go through is just give you an overview of the platform, explain how you can use it, some different ways that we leverage it here and other people and users leverage it as well. And a first thing to say is if you can get it by going to agentdiscoverability.com/track, you'll then be taken to our app. Something I would definitely suggest doing is signing up to updates. So this will give you a daily update just via an email of everything, like basically all the apps that are going live and all the connectors that are going live. And it will also give little updates from us if there's anything that's interesting that you should be aware of. So it's really good. People love being on the newsletter. And so we'll have that running very soon. Or if you sign up, you have that immediately. And what you can see here is you can see an overview of the ChatGPT app numbers and Claude Connector numbers, and you can see you've got the directory growth here. You can filter these. So like if we look at the last 5 days, we can see the ChatGPT ecosystem has kind of moved from about 1,100 to about 1,000 and 880. So a little bit of movement there. It looks, you can kind of see the growth curve a little bit better if you just filter on one of the apps because they're quite different. But you can basically look at all time, filter on both of them or just one of them, and you can basically get a view. Now these filters, what they will do is they will basically move the whole tracker across to that particular platform. So you can see here, if we just focus on ChatGPT, we can then also see things like all of the latest, we call them integrations because they name them differently, those that are aware at the moment. ChatGPT calls them apps, Claude calls them connectors. In fact, helpfully, you've got things like Codex, which actually calls them plugins, but we'll get to other platforms later. Now, in terms of registry coverage, we've got basically every single tool for every single platform that's tracked. We've got this number of brands in total. These are total number of companies that have basically launched some sort of integration. And the platforms that we're tracking now are Claude and ChatGPT, and we will be launching more very soon. There is this new integration field. So like I was showing, if you're on both, you can basically see these are daily updates of who's being put into the stores. So you can see here, yesterday we're on Monday 25. We had one app that was on there. Day before that, on Sunday, we had maybe 8, 9, 10 different apps that are on there. You can see it integrates also the Claude numbers as well. Now, a little bit more on just the cross-platform coverage. So we do give you a view on which brands are actually on both platforms, and I'll go into that in a second, and you can compare them there. We do have a category mix of view. So what this basically tells you is across both of these platforms, what is the percentage that we're seeing and what types of companies are coming there? And there's a real breadth across here, and really any sector is starting to think about this. It's very interesting to see, but there are some that are very dominant, and they are different depending on which you look at, which we'll go through in a moment. There are different types of apps that are really focusing on getting onto the two different types of platform. And then we also have tooling. So what this tells you is it basically says, okay, how many tools do each of the apps have? And then it gives it on a chart over the numbers. Now, we'll get into this also in a second, but there's very interesting data here because this gives you not only just what's happening in the ecosystems, but it also allows you, if you are thinking about building an app or building an app, you can track this. You can actually see, okay, this is what my competitor's doing. What could I learn from them? You can read on ChatGPT at least the entire tool description. So it's very interesting to see. Authentication is also an interesting topic. You can see whether apps are authenticating or not. Broadly interesting to see overall, but particularly interesting when you go into a specific app because you may have a different strategy to them. Some companies that we know will be choosing to not authenticate, for example, even if they're sometimes a B2B company because they're actually looking for early onboarding. And maybe there's some features that authenticate and they can do a mix. There's different approaches that you can take here. So we will also go through it as well. But this is your dashboard. This is your core overview as to how you can just start to keep a track. And like I said, getting updates there is very interesting. We also have a CSV download. So all of our data is free. All of this tracker data is open source. You can go and get this list here. And if we dive first of all into categories. So if you go into categories here, you can see this overall of a mix. You can see some of the different apps and integrations that are involved in each. You can see the percentage breaks down there. Now, if you go into ChatGPT, I think just to call out some of the things that we're seeing, you can see that ChatGPT is much more focused on B2C. And I think that's fairly expected. They're much more of a B2C application, but you are seeing a lot more productivity apps that are starting to be released there. And what we're also seeing is ChatGPT, similar to what Claude's doing with co-work, and what they will be doing, I think, with an evolution of their agent capabilities and something secret, co-word, we can call it co-word, called Conway. They're building an on 24/7 agent. These connectors are being expanded across all of these ecosystems. So you can see here, these productivity tools, they're somewhat useful, I think, in ChatGPT, but I think they're most useful in Codex as plugins. Codex as plugins, underneath all of these apps sit MCP and MCP apps. And now, actually, as a plugin, it's going to be both an MCP app and a combination of skills as well. It means you can use it really, really well. But that's also why you're seeing apps realize, people know that the ChatGPT and more OpenAI ecosystem, they need these external capabilities. And actually, these productivity ones actually work a lot better with the harness being Codex than ChatGPT at the moment. But I think OpenAI will improve ChatGPT's tool calling soon. But interesting to see this breakdown. Now, if you compare it to Claude, what's interesting here is that actually it's very different, right? It's much more productivity, data analytics, finance, dev tools, these kind of things. And you actually have barely any consumer. You're starting to see some stuff in travel, and we'll go through our organic discovery piece in a moment. But you are getting a slight movement from Claude. It's nowhere near the shift that ChatGPT has in terms of ChatGPT is in comparison much more productivity than the balance that Claude has of that. If you do a vice versa, but I would say they are starting to make a shift. They did an announcement, in fact, saying that they are going to start doing more of these consumer-focused applications. And so we may see more of this pick up over time, but broadly, you can see the breakdown here. Now, if I click into one of these categories, this allows you to see the category that's interesting to you, so you can filter on these categories. So if you ever want to, if let's say you work in data and analytics, and you want to see and compare yourself against your competitors, you can do that here. So you can filter on the particular platform. Let's say we do both. You can then filter on the family. So which category is interesting? We're in data and analytics right now. And I can see all of the apps that are relevant here. So I can see who in my ecosystem is inside ChatGPT and Claude. Who is, what number of tools do they have? Who requires authentication? How many are on ChatGPT versus Claude? There's many things that you can do. And then what you can also do once you've got that view, because we can also track it over time as well. So I can even see, you know, in the last 7 days, who released a data analytics app. So there's many views that are interesting here. And actually, we're currently building family category data and insights as well. So you'll have that very soon. Visuals that will show you the breakdown over time, subsections within the family as well. And what you can also do is, if you want to then, let's say, compare or see a particular app or even see your own app, you can actually click into one of these. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Now, we have also got a brand view. So this is the brand view. Now you've got 3 different areas in terms of brands that you can see. So you can see the total number of brands. I think you can see just on the main screen. But here, what we're doing is we're actually telling you which brands are on both. So we do an accumulation. We help basically you to quite quickly and easily see which apps are in both ecosystems, which there is no kind of like direct tracker for. So we make sure that we bring that data together for you. It's very interesting to see which companies are on both. And you can kind of see it's a lot of the main players, which is interesting, right? And there's 144 on both. Just on ChatGPT, you've got 1,000, over 1,000. So we have that there. You can see here that they've got their number of ChatGPT apps. You can see here NoodleC, they've got 23 apps, and they have the largest number of apps. So we have all of that in order here. And then you've got Claude, and Adobe's actually got 4. So you can see here that we're starting to see a number of companies that are actually starting to really become kind of main providers of all the different apps. And even if you have a you know, a company here, you can actually click and see all of the different apps that they have. So you've got NoodleC here with all of the different apps that they have on their platform, and then you've got other great players. You've got the Sonic Jobs team as well, with all of their apps that they also have live. Now, yeah, here you have the all view 1.3 in total. Now, what you can then also do is, if we go back into the AI apps and categories, you can go into a specific app. So let's take Vanta. Vanta, some people will probably know it helps with things like compliance and, you know, making sure that you've got good security. And what you can see is you get an overview of the description. You can open up and go actually to ChatGPT. It's very similar for Claude, but then you can actually see all of their tools. So we have every single tool, every single description. And why this is interesting is because for anyone that has actually built these apps, so let's say you've got an app, you may want to see, let's say you're competing with Vanta, what ways are they approaching tools? What are the descriptions that they're using? How are they approaching the description to ensure that they have certain different ways that the tools, you know, actually take action? There's many different things that are really important here. These are quite light descriptions. You can get very expansive ones. And what you could then do, let's say you don't have an app yet, you can actually start to get insight on, okay, how are different companies approaching their tool description? So therefore, I can think about this for my company as well. Now, the final section that we have is we have the tool explorer. Now, what we're doing here is we're tracking every single tool across every ChatGPT app and every Claude connector. So this basically gives you a view of, yeah, like I said, every single tool. Now, this is more like an aggregated view, so you can actually, you know, type in certain tools, you can type in certain integrations. You know, for example, if I go with Gusto, we're going to get Gusto's tools. So you can see here, and wow, that's actually very interesting. Oh, okay, no, I thought that was just showing only 2 tools and then a number of tools for Claude. But you can see here, they've got all the different types of tools, and you know, you can filter on them here. We've got different filters there as well. So you've got auth-less, unknown. So you can filter on all of these, and then ChatGPT app and Claude as well. So very interesting view. And I think, like I mentioned, this is also interesting. Just different tool verbs. So like, what are the tools really trying to do? And it kind of just gives you a breakdown of what the apps inside are actually trying to do as well. So another interesting view. I think one thing I wanted to call out here is actually if you look at ChatGPT, there's a large number of apps, and you can kind of see the breakdown overall. Apps are either kind of predominantly going for fewer tools, so like 1, 2, 3, etc., 4, and that goes down over time. But then there is a huge number that do just go for way higher. So if you presume higher is like over 11, a lot of companies do that and go for kind of more complex integrations. I think a lot of these also align with the ones that are on Claude. So that's also interesting. What's very interesting compared to ChatGPT and Claude is that the Claude ones have a lot more tools. And I think there's a couple of reasons for this. One of the reasons is because there are Claude is frankly just better at tool calling. So you can actually do much more and it will work. You can have multiple tools, they can be integrated together, it can do better tool calling. So that works well. Another reason is because the apps and the brands that are there are much more complex. Their productivity, their data. So you kind of expect that, a lot of these ChatGPT apps that have fewer, they're going to be more consumer and they're going to have less complex per se use cases. So that's another reason that we're seeing that. But again, something that's very, very good to track. Now, I'm going to give you a very high level overview of categories. Now, this is our core product and platform, and it is basically the other area that is very important for everyone to understand in this space, which is not only do you need to understand how you appear in the tracker, how you compare to other products, just keeping a general overview of the ecosystem and optimize components of the registry, because this could be something that then influences how your apps are distributed. You need to understand, or would want to understand, how are you appearing organically? And for those that aren't aware yet, Claude has turned on organic discovery of these connectors. What that means is when you do a prompt and do like a test case now, if I was to say, I want to book a hotel in New York for tomorrow night, then it's not just going to give me some text response and get it from somewhere from the web. It's actually going to think, okay, well, I've got a connector here, an app that could better serve this for me. Let me give them some options from the registry to then better serve that need. So I can then connect to booking, and then go through and complete the journey with them. We could even do that. So as you've seen, I've just connected very smoothly, and now it's just said, okay, you can use booking.com for this. And because I've just connected to that, it's almost like the equivalent of downloading an app when you were doing mobile. It's now able to pull through booking, and then very quickly I'm able to get some really nice, a nice widget, looks very seamless within there, some text response below. So you can see here the iframe here, and now I actually have a UI widget. Now this is a really big deal because not only is it a much better experience, I actually have nice UI that's there. I have the appropriate data. This is much better than any data that Claude could natively get. But what it's important is, it's important for a brand because it means that you can get your I've not had to leave Claude, but I've been able to actually access a brand, still see the brand's presence, and then actually convert with them. So this is a whole new opportunity. But why it's also very interesting is it also an opportunity now that this is present and they'll get organically surfaced for you to optimize to make sure that your app appears first. Now, what we are doing is the first foundations of optimizing for this new surface is to understand the data. This is very, very important. You cannot optimize anything unless you actually understand what is happening. Are you appearing? Are you not? Why are some apps appearing much more than others? And what is the reason for that? Now, there's many, many factors that will influence this. I will get much more into this in another video, but it is very, very critical at the first stage, you have the data. So what we're doing is across every category, and we have much more of these than just are shown here, we are tracking prompts within that category, and then we're seeing who is actually appearing, and then we are actually tracking every single run as well. So you can go into a specific prompt, see within that prompt what was the result, what run we did, what model we used, many different things. And this is a summary view. So this shows you, okay, actually for all of the search, hotel search and booking category, who is appearing. So this is relevant for obviously these companies, but obviously any company that wants to get into this space, how are they going to need to compete? And if they get their connector live, if they do appear organically, will start to appear in our rankings as well. So you can see here, this is visibility. This just shows you out of all the prompts we're running, who's appearing. And you can see, interestingly, booking.com is almost appearing 100% of the time. They do have some blips here on this day, but broadly they are appearing a significant amount of the time. Whereas other apps, for example, lastminute.com, in a huge amount of the prompts we're running, they're barely appearing. And there's the reasons for that. I think they're broadly a flight booking. I might be wrong. But you can see here companies like Direct Booker, Weinman doing well, but they're just a slightly lesser share at the moment. We also have things like share of voice. So you can actually see here, okay, which is an interesting view. Who is getting the most of the share consistently across time, and then also average rank. Because what's very important here is it's not just about appearing, as you can see. We had the view go just here. If I run this again, it's not just about appearing. We now also have a new form of ranking. And this ranking is basically the order in which you actually appear within the section there of connectors. And so what I can see here is that booking.com is actually at the top. And you can actually see even we've got different results than we did last time. So I think that just shows you really can change. There are a different order and rank that can happen. And so it's important to track that order, because I think it's generally true, and we saw it from Google. If you are the first on the list, that has a massive implication. It will likely be the same here. One thing to just call out, just because I use this here, actually, this doesn't impact the order. So what we are seeing is, let's say you've already connected to something. It doesn't mean it's just going to only use that. It can still surface other connectors and can still change the order. So I just wanted to call that out. But like I said, I'll do a much more detailed view on this. Now, we also just have an overall ranking. So this is just like across all the prompts we're running, who's ranking and what kind of like market concentration is there, across the space. And you can see just the top two. So Booking, TripAdvisor, they actually have 58% of the share of voice, which is interesting to see. This is just one view. We have every category. You can filter on a brand. We're going to add more platforms as they roll out beyond Claude, and we're also allowing companies to track specific prompts related to them. So this is just a category view, but you can actually get prompts view as well. And so if you want access to the platform, get in touch. You can sign up here, and we are rolling this out to more companies every time. But I will give you a more detailed view into both what we're seeing, but also access to the platform full demo very soon. So that is everything. Very excited to launch our agent discoverability control panel and our registry tracker, in particular, as being the core topic for today, to give the whole ecosystem better visibility into what we're seeing here. We will be adding many more platforms very soon. These MCP and MCP apps, the beauty of them is they are, being used and adopted by more and more protocols, MCP at least for sure, and most of the time MCP apps. So these are now available, in Gemini, which just got announced. The MCP use did. MCP apps are also available in Copilot. You've also got MCP in Grok, Cursor, so many other interesting companies. And so we'll be adding more and more of these to our platform also over time. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn, find me on X, drop a comment below if there's something in particular you'd like me to cover, and I will speak to you soon. Final thing I would say, do join our Discord and get involved in the community. I want to try and make it a really vibrant place for people to understand more about getting discovered by agents, getting your MCP app organically to appear, and more broadly, getting your MCP found, on the web. So I will speak to you very soon.